In the heart of Sydney, Australia, Samantha believed she had found her forever partner. She met her husband in 2010, and their connection was immediate and profound. By 2013, they had purchased a property together, a charming home nestled in one of Sydney's suburban neighborhoods. Samantha managed the household, while her husband handled the finances, a division of labor that seemed practical at the time. Their life appeared idyllic to outsiders. They hosted lively gatherings, celebrated milestones with friends and family, and were the picture of a modern, successful couple. However, beneath this veneer of perfection, subtle signs hinted at underlying issues. Samantha's husband began exhibiting erratic behavior, unexplained absences, secretive phone calls, and a growing emotional distance. Samantha's suspicions grew when her husband started disappearing during crucial family moments. On the eve of their child's birthday party, he left abruptly, claiming he needed to run an errand. He returned hours later, carrying expensive handbags as gifts for Samantha. Instead of feeling appreciated, she was perplexed and hurt. The timing was off, and his priorities seemed misplaced. Confrontations became more frequent. Samantha questioned his whereabouts and the source of the money for these lavish gifts, especially when he was often unavailable during family events. His responses were evasive, and he frequently deflected blame onto her, accusing her of being ungrateful or overly suspicious. This gaslighting left Samantha doubting her own perceptions and feeling isolated. The turning point came when Samantha discovered that their mortgage repayments were in arrears. She had trusted her husband to manage their finances, but bills were unpaid and debts were mounting. When she confronted him, he blamed external factors, issues with the bank, bureaucratic delays, anything but his own actions. Despite her intuition telling her something was amiss, she wanted to believe him, to trust in their partnership. The emotional toll was immense. Samantha felt trapped in a cycle of suspicion and reassurance, where every doubt she voiced was met with hostility or dismissal. She began to question her own sanity, wondering if she was overreacting or misinterpreting the situation. Her husband's manipulative tactics eroded her self-confidence, making it increasingly difficult for her to see the reality of their circumstances. Friends and family noticed the change in Samantha. Once vibrant and outgoing, she became withdrawn and anxious. When they expressed concern, she defended her husband, unwilling to admit, even to herself, that her marriage was crumbling. The stigma of financial trouble and the fear of judgment kept her silent, further isolating her from potential support networks. As the financial strain worsened, Samantha's husband became more erratic. He would leave for days without explanation, returning with vague excuses and empty promises to fix their situation. Samantha's attempts to take control of their finances were met with resistance and anger. He accused her of not trusting him, turning the blame onto her and diverting attention from his own misconduct. The facade of their perfect life was rapidly disintegrating. Samantha was left to manage the household and care for their children alone, all while grappling with the mounting debt and her husband's deceit. She felt like a prisoner in her own home, bound by the invisible chains of financial abuse and emotional manipulation. In this turbulent period, Samantha began to realize the extent of her husband's betrayal. The man she had trusted with her life had led them into financial ruin, all while keeping her in the dark. The weight of the debt was crushing, but the emotional betrayal cut even deeper. Samantha knew she had to confront the reality of her situation, but the path forward was shrouded in uncertainty and fear. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. As Samantha delved deeper into the financial turmoil enveloping her family, she uncovered a series of alarming discrepancies. Bank statements revealed substantial withdrawals and credit card charges she couldn't account for. Determined to uncover the truth, she meticulously traced these transactions, leading her to a shocking discovery. Her husband, David, had been financing a lavish lifestyle for another woman. The other woman, Lisa, was a younger colleague David had met during a business conference in Melbourne. Their affair had blossomed over shared projects and late-night meetings, eventually evolving into a full-fledged relationship. David had been siphoning money from their joint accounts to fund extravagant gifts, luxury vacations, and even a rented apartment for Lisa in the upscale suburb of South Yarra. Samantha's world crumbled as she pieced together the extent of David's betrayal. Not only had he been unfaithful, but he had also amassed a staggering $200,000 in debt to sustain his double life. Loans taken out in their names, maxed-out credit cards, and unpaid bills painted a grim picture of their financial standing. Confronting David was inevitable. One evening, after ensuring their children were asleep, Samantha laid out the evidence before him. Caught off guard, David initially attempted to deny the allegations but soon crumbled under the weight of proof. He confessed to the affair but downplayed the financial implications, insisting he had everything under control. Feeling a mix of rage, betrayal, and heartbreak, Samantha demanded to know how he planned to rectify the situation. David's response was evasive, filled with empty promises and vague plans. Realizing he had no concrete solutions, Samantha knew she had to take matters into her own hands to protect her family's future. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. The atmosphere in their Sydney home had grown increasingly tense since Samantha confronted David about his affair and the staggering $200,000 debt he had accumulated. David's promises to rectify the situation remained unfulfilled, and his behavior became more erratic. Samantha felt the weight of the financial burden pressing down on her, but she was determined to protect her family and find a way forward. One evening, after putting their children to bed, Samantha sat alone in the living room, sifting through a pile of overdue bills and bank statements. The numbers were overwhelming, and the reality of their financial crisis was sinking in. She knew that relying on David to resolve the situation was no longer an option. Taking a deep breath, she resolved to take control of their finances and seek professional advice. The next morning, Samantha contacted a financial advisor recommended by a close friend. She gathered all relevant documents and prepared for their meeting, hoping to gain clarity on their financial standing and explore possible solutions. The advisor, a compassionate and knowledgeable woman named Claire, listened attentively as Samantha recounted the events leading up to their current predicament. Claire explained that while the situation was dire, there were steps Samantha could take to mitigate the damage. They discussed budgeting strategies, debt consolidation options, and the possibility of negotiating with creditors. Claire also emphasized the importance of seeking legal counsel to understand her rights and protect her assets. Samantha left the meeting feeling a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Upon returning home, Samantha found David packing a suitcase. His expression was a mix of guilt and defiance. "I'm leaving," he announced abruptly. "I can't handle this anymore." Samantha's heart sank, but she remained composed. "What about the children? What about the debt you've left us with?" she asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. David avoided her gaze. "I need time to think. I'll be staying with Lisa for a while." With that, he grabbed his suitcase and walked out the door, leaving Samantha standing in stunned silence. The man she had once trusted implicitly had abandoned their family in the midst of a financial and emotional crisis. In the days that followed, Samantha focused on her children, providing them with as much stability and reassurance as possible. She also took proactive steps to secure her financial future. Following Claire's advice, she opened a separate bank account in her name and redirected her salary to ensure she had control over her income. She contacted creditors to inform them of the situation and began negotiating payment plans. Samantha also sought legal counsel to understand her rights regarding the joint debt and the possibility of pursuing legal action against David for financial misconduct. The lawyer explained that while the process would be challenging, there were legal avenues available to hold David accountable for his actions. Empowered by this knowledge, Samantha prepared to face the upcoming battles with resilience and determination. Throughout this ordeal, Samantha found support in unexpected places. Friends and family rallied around her, offering assistance with childcare, meals, and emotional support. She also connected with support groups for individuals experiencing financial abuse, finding solace in sharing her story and learning from others who had faced similar challenges. As weeks turned into months, Samantha gradually regained control over her life. She implemented a strict budget, prioritized essential expenses, and found creative ways to supplement her income. Her children adapted to the new normal, and their bond as a family grew stronger. Samantha's journey was far from over, but she faced each day with renewed strength and determination. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha sat in the quiet of her Sydney home, the weight of David's betrayal and the $200,000 debt suffocating her. Every bill, every call from creditors, every reminder of his reckless spending sent waves of frustration through her. But she wasn't going to let it break her. She was a woman with a plan. One evening, as she sorted through their financial documents, Samantha stumbled upon something curious: a file labeled Henderson Trust Fund. She had seen this before but never paid much attention to it. It was something David's father had set up for him years ago. But now something clicked in her mind. Digging deeper, she found the details. The Henderson family trust, worth millions, had been under David's name, but with one crucial condition. Samantha was the trustee. David had never mentioned this to her, assuming she wouldn't care or notice. But now this changed everything. She picked up the phone and called Richard Ellis, the family's longtime lawyer, a sharp-witted man who had handled the Henderson estate for decades. "Richard," she began, trying to keep her voice steady, "I need to talk about David's trust fund." There was a pause. Then Richard sighed. "Samantha, I was wondering when you'd finally ask about it." Her pulse quickened. "What do you mean?" Richard chuckled lightly. "David never read the fine print, did he? You are the sole trustee. He cannot access the money unless you approve it." Samantha's grip on the phone tightened. This was her weapon. "Tell me everything," she said, her voice firm. Over the next few days, Samantha met with Richard and went through every legal detail. She had the power to freeze David's access to the trust fund. And if she played her cards right, she could use this money to cover the debt David had left her with. First, she instructed Richard to immediately block David from withdrawing any funds. Then she made a bold decision. She would not inform David yet. She wanted him to feel the consequences of what he had done. A week later, David called her. "Samantha, I need money," he said, irritation in his voice. "I'm trying to pay some bills." He smirked. "Oh, that's interesting. You never cared about bills before." David sighed. "Look, can we not do this right now? Just transfer some money from my trust fund." Samantha took a deep breath, enjoying the moment. "Oh, David, you really should have read the paperwork. I control the trust fund. Not you." There was silence. Then his voice rose. "What? That's my money." She let out a bitter laugh. "And this was my life. But you threw it away for Lisa, remember?" David stammered. "Samantha, come on. You can't just—" "Oh, but I can," she interrupted. "And I just did." A week passed, and Samantha received a desperate text from David. "Please, let's talk. Meet me at the grounds of Alexandria." She almost ignored it. But something in her wanted to see him struggle. When she arrived, David was already seated, looking more disheveled than she had ever seen him. His usual arrogance was gone. "I need money," he admitted, barely able to meet her eyes. She leaned back, sipping her coffee. "You should have thought about that before spending our money on another woman." He exhaled sharply. "I made mistakes, okay? But Lisa, she's gone. She left me when she realized I was broke." Samantha raised an eyebrow. "Course she did. And now the bank is threatening to repossess the car. My credit cards are maxed out. I have nothing." She crossed her arms. "Not my problem." David clenched his jaw. "Samantha, please. I'm begging you." She stared at him for a long moment. This was the same man who had humiliated her. The same man who had walked out on their family for a younger woman. And now, here he was, begging. But Samantha wasn't cruel. She was fair. She slid a document across the table. "This is an agreement," she said. "I will clear the debt under one condition. You sign over all rights to the house. You leave and never bother me or the kids again." David's eyes widened. "That's blackmail." She smiled. "No. That's justice." He hesitated, but he had no choice. Defeated, he picked up the pen and signed. Samantha took the papers and stood up. "Goodbye, David." She walked away, feeling lighter than she had in years. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha stepped out of the cafe, gripping the signed papers in her hands. The sun was setting over Sydney's skyline, casting a golden hue over the city. For the first time in months, she felt like she could breathe. David was finally out of her life. The house was now officially hers. The debt he had left her with would be paid off using his own trust fund, and he would walk away with nothing. But this wasn't just about revenge. It was about taking back control. Samantha knew she had a long way to go. While she had managed to secure the house and pay off the debt, she still had to heal from the betrayal. She decided to take some time off from work to focus on herself and her children. With David gone, the house felt different, lighter, freer. She redecorated, changing everything that reminded her of him. New curtains, fresh paint, and even a new bed. She was determined to erase every trace of the man who had broken her trust. One day, as she was rearranging the living room, her phone rang. It was Claire, her financial advisor. "Samantha, I have good news," Claire said. "With David out of the picture, your finances are stable now. The trust fund has covered the debt, and you even have some extra left." Samantha smiled. "That's the best news I've heard in a long time." But Claire hesitated. "There's something else." "What?" "I did some digging, and David has been trying to take legal action to regain access to his trust fund. He's claiming that you manipulated him into signing over the house." Samantha's heart sank. Of course he wouldn't give up so easily. A few days later, Samantha received a legal notice from David's lawyer. He was demanding that the court reverse the agreement, claiming he had signed it under duress. Samantha immediately called Richard Ellis, the family's lawyer. "I knew he'd try this," Richard said, his voice calm. "But he doesn't have a case. He signed the documents willingly. We have witnesses." He was desperate, not forced. Samantha exhaled in relief. "So what happens now?" "We fight back," Richard assured her. "But honestly, I don't think this will go far. He doesn't have the money for a proper legal battle." A few weeks later, David's case was dismissed. He had no leg to stand on. And just like that, he was officially out of her life. With her legal battles finally behind her, Samantha focused on herself. One afternoon, while grocery shopping at Kohl's in Bondi Junction, she bumped into an old college friend, James Carter. James had been a close friend during university, but they had lost touch over the years. He was now a successful entrepreneur, running a chain of fitness studios across Sydney. "Samantha. Wow, it's been years," James said, smiling. They grabbed coffee at a nearby cafe, catching up on life. Samantha found herself laughing for the first time in months. James was charming, funny, and most importantly, he listened, something David had never done. Over the next few weeks, they started talking more. He became her support system, encouraging her to start fresh. One evening, after a long conversation about life and healing, James looked at her and said, "You deserve happiness, Sam. Real happiness." For the first time, she believed it. Months passed, and Samantha flourished. She started her own business, a financial consulting firm for women who had been through similar situations. She wanted to help others rebuild their lives, just like she had done. Meanwhile, David? He was struggling. He had burned bridges with his family, lost his job, and had no money. Lisa had left him, and now, he was living in a tiny rental apartment in Parramatta, far from the luxury he once flaunted. One day, Samantha received a message from an unknown number. "David, I'm sorry. Can we talk?" She stared at the screen for a moment, then deleted the message. Because some doors should never be reopened. Samantha stood on the balcony of her new office, looking out over Sydney's skyline. She had been betrayed, abandoned, and left with nothing. But she had come out stronger. Her house was hers. Her debt was gone. Her life was finally her own. And David? He was nothing but a lesson from the past. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha had finally found her peace. Her new financial consulting firm was thriving, and she had built a community of strong, independent women who had faced similar betrayals. Sydney had never looked more beautiful to her. The same city that once felt suffocating now felt like a land of endless possibilities. James Carter had become a great friend, offering support whenever she needed it. Their casual coffee meetings had turned into long conversations about life, business, and second chances. But she wasn't ready to rush into anything romantic. Not yet. Just when she thought her past with David was truly behind her, an unexpected call disrupted her new life. It was a Saturday afternoon when Samantha received a call from a private number. She hesitated before answering. "Hello." A weak, familiar voice spoke. "Samantha, it's me, David." Her grip on the phone tightened. She hadn't heard his voice in months, and just hearing it sent a chill down her spine. "What do you want, David?" she asked, keeping her voice cold. There was a long pause. Then his voice broke. "I need help." Samantha nearly laughed. "Help? From me?" I'm serious," David continued. I messed up. I have nowhere to go." She stayed silent, waiting for him to explain. "I lost everything," he admitted. "I can't even afford rent anymore. Lisa took the last of my savings. I've been staying in a cheap motel, but I can't even pay for that now. Samantha, please." A part of her felt like this was karma. The same man who had abandoned her and left her with $200,000 in debt was now begging for help. "What exactly do you expect me to do?" she asked. "I don't know," David whispered. "I just thought, maybe you could lend me some money. Just enough to get back on my feet." Samantha's stomach turned. This was the man who had lied, cheated, and left her for another woman. And now he wanted her money. "David," she said slowly, "the answer is no." He exhaled sharply. "Samantha, please. She didn't wait for him to finish. She hung up. That night, Samantha lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She knew she had made the right decision, but she couldn't shake the guilt. Yes, David had hurt her. Yes, he had left her in financial ruin. But he was still a human being. She didn't want him back in her life, but could she really let him become homeless? The next morning she called James. "I need to talk to you," she said. They met at their usual coffee spot in the grounds of Alexandria. James listened as she explained the situation. His expression unreadable. When she finished, he leaned back and folded his arms. "So let me get this straight," James said. "David threw away everything for another woman. Left you in crippling debt. Took your money. Humiliated you. And now he's begging for help." Samantha nodded. "And you're actually considering it?" James raised an eyebrow. She sighed. "I don't know. I just feel guilty." James shook his head. "Samantha, I admire your kindness, but some people don't deserve it. He made his choices. He used you. Do you really think if the roles were reversed, he would help you?" She looked away. She already knew the answer. David wouldn't have helped her. Later that evening, Samantha sat down with a pen and paper. She decided to write David a letter, not to help him, but to finally say what she had never said before. "David, you left me when I needed you most. You betrayed our marriage, spent our money on another woman, and left me drowning in debt. You never thought about the consequences. But I survived. I rebuilt my life. And now you want my help. I owe you nothing. I hope you find your way, but I will not be your savior. Goodbye." Samantha. She didn't send it. She didn't need to. Just writing it down was enough. She tore it up, threw it away, and moved on. The next morning, she woke up feeling lighter. For the first time, David no longer had any power over her. She wasn't his victim anymore. She was free. And she was finally ready to embrace the future, without him. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha had officially closed the chapter on David. The moment she tore up that letter, she felt an invisible weight lift off her shoulders. It was over. No more sleepless nights thinking about the betrayal. No more wondering if she had made the right decision. David was in the past, and that's where he would stay. Now she was ready for something new. Something for herself. Since opening her financial consulting firm, Empower Her Finance, Samantha had helped dozens of women regain control over their lives. Many of her clients had been in situations similar to hers, abandoned, financially manipulated, and left to pick up the pieces. Her work gave her purpose, and business was growing faster than she had expected. One afternoon, as she sat in her office in Sydney's central business district, her assistant, Rachel, knocked on the door. "Samantha, there's a journalist from the Sydney Morning Herald who wants to interview you," Rachel said. Samantha raised an eyebrow. "About what?" "They want to feature you in an article about women who have turned financial struggles into success." Samantha hesitated. She had spent months trying to keep her story out of the spotlight. But maybe it was time to own it. She agreed to the interview. The next week, Samantha met with Liam Parker, a journalist known for covering inspiring personal stories. As they sat in a cozy corner of Mecca Coffee in Alexandria, Liam turned on his recorder. "So, Samantha," he began, "you went from nearly drowning in debt to running one of the fastest-growing financial consulting firms for women. Tell me, how did you do it?" Samantha took a deep breath. "I started by taking control of my own life first." She shared her story. How David had left her with a $200,000 debt, how she had fought back, how she had used his trust fund to clear her name, and how she rebuilt her life from scratch. Liam listened intently. "And do you think David regrets what he did?" he asked. Samantha smirked. "I don't know and I don't care." Liam chuckled. "I like that answer." The article was published a week later under the title, "From Betrayal to Success: How Samantha Walker Took Control of Her Future." It went viral. Within days, her inbox was flooded with messages. From women thanking her for sharing her story, from potential clients who wanted her help, and even from a few media outlets wanting to feature her on television. Among the many emails she received, one stood out. It was from Lisa. Yes, that Lisa. The woman David had left her for at Samantha's hands trembled as she opened the email. "Samantha, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I needed to say something. I made a huge mistake. David ruined my life too. After he lost everything, he became angry, controlling, and manipulative. I thought I was special to him, but I was just another woman he used. I saw your article and realized that you were the one who won in the end. Not because of revenge, but because you took back your life. I just wanted to say, sorry, Lisa." Samantha read the email twice. She had imagined this moment before. Lisa reaching out, admitting she was wrong. But now that it was happening, she felt nothing. No anger. No need for revenge. Just pity. Lisa had fallen for the same lies Samantha once had. She didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. With her story out in the world, Samantha was busier than ever. Her business was thriving and she was finally happy. One evening, she received a text from James. "James. Dinner tonight. My treat," she smiled. "Samantha, sure. Where?" "James. I'll surprise you. Pick you up at 7. That evening, James arrived at her house, looking sharp in a navy blue blazer. They drove to a restaurant by Bondi Beach, where the ocean waves crashed softly in the background. Over dinner, they talked about everything, business, life, and how much had changed in the past year. Then James leaned forward, his expression serious. "Samantha, can I say something?" She nodded. "I've watched you rebuild your life from nothing. I've seen you go from heartbroken to unstoppable. I think I'm falling for you." Samantha's breath caught. For months, she had pushed aside the idea of love. She had told herself she wasn't ready. But sitting there, looking at James, she realized, maybe she was. She reached for his hand. Then let's see where this goes. And for the first time in a long time, she felt excited for the future. Before going to the next, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha never expected her life to take such a turn. A year ago, she was drowning in $200,000 debt, left behind by a man she had loved and trusted. Today, she was a successful entrepreneur, a sought-after financial consultant, and, perhaps most unexpectedly, falling in love again. James had been a pillar of support through everything. Unlike David, he had never tried to control her or manipulate her. He admired her strength and encouraged her dreams. But just when she thought she had put the past behind her, it came knocking again. One afternoon, as she was reviewing a new investment proposal in her Sydney CBD office, her phone rang. She hesitated before answering. "Hello." A familiar voice spoke on the other end. It's me. We need to talk." Her stomach twisted. "David," she almost hung up, but then took a deep breath. "What do you want?" David sighed. "Look, I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But I need your help." Samantha let out a cold laugh. "You need my help? After everything you did?" There was silence before he said, "I lost everything, Sam. Lisa left me, my business collapsed, and I have nowhere to go." She closed her eyes, gripping the phone tightly. She should have felt satisfaction, but instead she felt nothing. David was reaping what he had sown. "You made your choices," she said, her voice firm. "Now live with them." Before he could say another word, she ended the call. For the first time, she truly felt free. That evening, she met James at Circular Quay. The Sydney Opera House was glowing in the distance, and the salty sea air brushed against her skin. "You're quiet," James noted as they walked along the waterfront. She sighed. David called. James stopped walking. What did he want? Samantha turned to face him. "Help." James studied her expression. "And I said no." A slow smile spread across his face. "Good." Samantha chuckled. "You're not even going to ask if I feel guilty." He shook his head. "You owe him nothing. And you don't need to feel guilty for putting yourself first." She exhaled, relief washing over her. "You're right." James took her hand in his. "You're free, Sam. Don't let him drag you back." The next morning, she woke up feeling lighter than ever. She had made peace with her past. David was nothing more than a cautionary tale, a reminder of what she had overcome. She walked into her office to find Rachel waiting with an excited look on her face. "You're not going to believe this." Rachel handed her a letter. "You've been invited to give a TED Talk." Samantha blinked in shock. "What?" Rachel grinned. "They want you to speak about financial independence and overcoming financial abuse. Your article in the Sydney Morning Herald caught their attention." Samantha stared at the invitation. TED Talk. A chance to inspire women all over the world. She smiled. "I'm in." And just like that, she stepped into the next chapter of her life, one where she was truly in control. Before going to the next chapter, please subscribe to our channel, like, and share with friends. Samantha stood backstage at the Sydney Opera House, her heart pounding in her chest. The stage lights glowed warmly, illuminating the red TED Talk carpet. A room full of people, investors, businesswomen, financial experts, and young women looking for inspiration, waited to hear her story. A year ago, she was a woman scorned, left with a mountain of debt and a broken heart. Now she was here, about to tell the world how she had turned betrayal into power. As she walked onto the stage, applause filled the room. She took a deep breath, smiled, and began. 2 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. A loving husband, a comfortable home, and financial security. But in the blink of an eye, it was gone. My husband, the man I trusted, left me with $200,000 in debt, for another woman. The audience gasped. Samantha continued. What he didn't know was that I controlled his trust fund. So, instead of being the victim, I became the victor. She shared every detail, The pain, the betrayal, the fight for survival, and the ultimate revenge. But here's the thing, she said, her voice steady. Revenge wasn't the real victory. The real victory was taking control of my own life, learning financial independence, and helping other women do the same. The room erupted in applause. After the talk, Samantha was approached by dozens of women, some in tears, others beaming with pride. You inspired me, one woman said, gripping Samantha's hands. I was in an abusive marriage, financially trapped. But now I know I can take control. Another woman, a young entrepreneur, smiled. Your story gave me the courage to start my own business. Thank you. Samantha felt overwhelmed, but in the best way possible. She had spent so much time fighting her past. Now she was building a future, not just for herself, but for countless women who needed someone to show them the way. A few weeks later, Samantha received one last email from David. It was short. Samantha, I saw your TED Talk. I don't know what to say except that I regret everything. I hope you find happiness. David. She stared at the screen for a long time. Then, with a deep breath, she clicked delete. No response. No closure needed. She had won. Happily ever after. Not quite something better. Samantha's life was not a fairy tale, but it was better. Her company, Empower Her Finance, expanded internationally. She was invited to speak at global conferences, helping women everywhere escape financial abuse. And James. One evening, as they walked along Bondi Beach, he pulled out a small velvet box. Samantha, he said, kneeling on one knee. Will you marry me? Tears filled her eyes. Not because she needed a man, but because she had finally found one who truly loved and respected her. She smiled. Yes. This time she was marrying for love, not security. This time she was in control of her story. The story of Samantha's betrayal, resilience, and ultimate success teaches us several powerful life lessons about financial independence, self-respect, and the importance of making wise choices in relationships. One of the biggest takeaways from this story is that financial independence protects you from being trapped in a toxic relationship. Samantha's husband, David, thought he had destroyed her by leaving her in massive debt, but he underestimated her financial intelligence. Because she understood money management, she was able to turn the situation around and take control. This teaches us that every person, especially women, should learn financial literacy. Depending entirely on a partner for financial security can lead to disaster. At first, David's betrayal seemed like the worst thing that could happen to Samantha. She was heartbroken, humiliated, and drowning in debt. But in reality, his betrayal set her free. If David had never left, Samantha might have spent years in a loveless marriage, unaware of his dishonesty. His actions forced her to rebuild her life and discover her own strength. This teaches us that sometimes, what feels like the end is actually a new beginning. Pain and betrayal can lead to something better, stronger, and more fulfilling. Instead of wasting energy on revenge, Samantha focused on building herself up. She used her intelligence and financial control to turn the tables on David, but she didn't stop there. She went on to build a successful business and become a global speaker. This proves that the best way to respond to betrayal is to succeed beyond what anyone expected. Instead of trying to hurt those who hurt us, we should focus on our own happiness and success. David's betrayal could have shattered Samantha's self-esteem, but instead, she realized that her worth was never defined by a man. She rebuilt her life on her own terms, proving that true happiness comes from within, not from someone else's validation. This is an important lesson for anyone who has felt abandoned, betrayed, or undervalued. You are enough. You are strong. And you don't need anyone else to define your worth. Unlike David, James never tried to control or manipulate Samantha. He respected her, supported her dreams, and encouraged her independence. Their love was based on mutual respect, not financial dependence or power games. This teaches us that true love is not about control, it's about partnership. The right person will uplift you, not use you. Samantha's story is a powerful reminder that life's biggest betrayals can lead to our greatest victories. By focusing on self-respect, financial independence, and inner strength, anyone can overcome challenges and create a future filled with success, happiness, and true love.